Good evening. This is a meeting of the Township Committee, February 7, 2022. The notice requirements provided for in the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied. Notice of this meeting was properly given by transmission to the Asbury Park Press, the Independent, and the Silver Times, and by posting at the Middletown Township Municipal Building and filing with the Township Clerk on January 7, 2022. Committeeman Clark.
Here.
Committeewoman Kratz.
Here.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Hybel.
Here.
Mayor Perry.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence to honor the troops serving worldwide, defending our constitutions, freedoms, and way of life. Thank you. Our first item on tonight's agenda, we have a public hearing on ordinance 2022-3329, a bond ordinance providing an appropriation of $340,000 for various park acquisitions and improvements by and for the Township of Middletown in the County of Monmouth, New Jersey, and authorizing the issuance of $225,000 in bonds or notes of the township for financing part of the appropriation.
Any member of the public wishing to speak on public ordinance number 2022-3329? Anyone joining us here at Town Hall that would like to speak on this bond? Okay, seeing no members of the public stepping forward here at Town Hall, any member of the public wishing to speak on public ordinance number 2022-3329 joining us via Webex? Okay, seeing no.
We do have one.
Yep. Hey, Don.
How you doing? Don Watson, living at 1 Collinson Drive in New Monmouth, New Jersey. This bond ordinance is for Tyndall Park, correct?
I'm sorry, I missed them. What is it?
If it's for Tyndall Park.
It's not for Tyndall Park, no. It's for McMahon, Don.
Okay, that's all I want to know. Thank you.
You got it. Any other members of the public joining us via WebEx that would like to speak on public ordinance number 2022-3329? Okay, seeing no member of the public stepping forward, move to close the public portion and approve.
Second.
Committeeman Clark.
Yes.
Committeewoman Kratz.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hybel.
Yes.
Mayor Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt this ordinance on second and final reading. Our next item on tonight's agenda.
I'm sorry.
Was Tyndall.
No, 3329. No. This is the one we rebid, correct?
Yeah.
Hold on 2 seconds.
Section 3.
Oh, bring Don back on.
Please, Tyndall.
Boop, boop. Yeah, sir.
Hey, Don, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I said it was for Tyndall. You're correct. It's for McMahon.
No.
Now I'm getting myself confused. It is for.
Read what's written there.
It is for Tyndall. It is for Tyndall.
Very good.
It includes the resurfacing of the tennis courts, site clearing, tree removal, adding benches, bike racks, and picnic tables, and that includes all the work necessary.
About the dog park.
That's separate. We're actually getting ready to go out to bid on that because we just received the passing from the DEP, which it included. So we're hoping to get that out to bid very quickly.
Okay, because earlier last week, I think you said that this ordinance was for McMahon Park. I was just confirming that.
That's why I said it was for McMahon, but I'm looking at this.
Yeah.
Ordinance.
Because I think the next resolution.
It states that Tyndall.
Right. Yep. So I asked you last meeting if it was for Tyndall, and you said yes. and then something came out where you said it was for McMahon with the pickleball courts.
Well, that was for the county though. That was for the county, application
You got a county open space.
for
plan.
$200,000.
Okay,
All right, well, Don, let me get right back to you on this, all right? I'll
right,
shoot you an email.
very good.
Thank you,
Thank
Don.
you. Yes, sir.
All right, can the three of you get together, please, and figure that out?
And now we voted to adopt. So
Okay.
that's finished.
I know, but now I'm concerned that we just voted and that is incorrectly stated.
I read the title.
The title's correct.
Okay, so it's okay? All right, all right.
It was just a.
So
So the motion passes.
Motion passes.
Okay, all right, just all right.
Our next item on tonight's agenda, we have introduction of 2022-3330, an ordinance amending Chapter 41 of the Code of the Township of Middletown governing officers of the Fire Department of the Township of Middletown.
Motion introduced.
Second.
Committeeman Clark.
Yes.
Committeewoman Kratz. Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hybel.
Yes.
Mayor Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass this ordinance on first reading with a public hearing to be held February 22nd, 2022. Our next item on tonight's agenda, we have introduction of ordinance 2022-3331, an ordinance authorizing a street vacation of a portion of Texas Avenue in Middletown Township, Monmouth County, New Jersey.
Motion introduced.
Committeeman Clark.
Yes.
Committeewoman Kratz. Yes. Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hybel.
Yes.
Mayor Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass this ordinance on first reading with a public hearing to be held February 22nd, 2022. At this time, I'd like to ask the Township Committee to adopt the consent agenda, which would include resolutions 22-58 through 22-75, including firefighter applications.
And this one too, this resolution.
Can I, this is.
Yeah, you can read that one. Yeah, that's, he wants to add that to the,
Consent?
it can be consent or just read the title for the record. Do you want that consent or do you want to do that
Consent,
separate?
consent.
Okay.
No, right.
In addition to the consent agenda, we'll have resolution 22-76. The resolution, just title.
You just read by the title on that.
The resolution is in addition to the consent agenda, resolution opposing continued extension of executive orders beyond public health emergency and supporting Senate Bill number 1200, limiting the governor's unilateral emergency powers.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Committeeman Clark.
Recuse.
Committeewoman Kratz. Yes. Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hybel.
Yes.
Mayor Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt consent agenda with results noted.
All right, we have agendas for the next item, for the next meeting.
Sorry. Okay. Items for the next regular meeting, we'll have certificates of proclamations, approval of minutes, public hearing on proposed ordinances, and consent agenda. Our items for discussion tonight, we begin with Monmouth County Shared Service for tax map updates and maintenance.
Alex, you want to?
Alex?
Mayor Committee.
How you doing, Alex?
This is a shared service offered by the, a summary of the program. So the important items of note here are our map, our current tax map, the vital part of the assessment process is a hybrid. It's an analog paper map only available to be edited by way of conversion. And then the rest of the map is a fully digital copy. This shared service allows the township, probably what will be the largest portion of the funds, to convert the map through Civil Solutions to a fully digital copy. This will allow for faster and more accurate changing of the parcels on an annual basis. That conversion, while I have not yet got a quote, it would be very costly should we do it on our own. And it will allow, just to summarize, it'll allow us to convert our map to a fully digital copy. All maintenance of mapping and tax map parcels will be covered for 2 years by the county. And then after that, any type of map maintenance will be around $65 a parcel thereafter billed to the township. So I think it is a great opportunity and something we have struggled with in the past. This is a trickle down situation. In other words, the example I gave is a large example, but it happens to small parcels as well. If the tax map isn't updated correctly, it's not married with its individual addresses, which is the parcel layer. That map is then forwarded to the county. That county map is then forwarded to the state. That state map is then distributed through public and private entities. So you can get into a situation, and this has happened frequently, where a change of parcel, we complete a change of a parcel, it does not get to Google Maps or another mapping provider for years. So this is a root of this problem is in our communication with the state, but also because our map is not fully digital.
Any questions for Alex?
This will eliminate the need for going outside to have it updated on a regular basis?
Yes, so right now, I work with Team M to update the map on an annual basis. They've been great. I have no issues with them. This is more for the larger picture to have these updates faster and we believe more cost effective, and of course the conversion.
After year two, how often do you anticipate having to update? So at $65 per parcel?
Sure. So every year we do a number of changes. That does vary on what's happening in the township. So a large subdivision would be more costly than just normal parcels. But anytime a parcel line is changed, anytime someone sells a little bit to their neighbor, anytime someone does a subdivision, lot consolidation, that's a change to the tax map. So we have, I noted anywhere between $15,000 to $25,000 a year in mapping changes. And that doesn't, that does vary, but it's around that $25,000 mark each year, and can go a lot higher with,
And is there an annual fee as part of the shared service, or is it just that per parcel cost?
To my knowledge, there's no annual fee. It's just the per person cost.
And keep in mind, we don't have any more Pamala subdivisions left. Very large subdivisions where spending $65 per parcel. There's not a lot of those left.
Important also to note is because we continue to annual reassessment program in town, there will be a time in which we need to produce a updated tax map, division of taxation for approval. It could be a number of years from now, but it will happen. This process will have to happen at some point to either to convert the map to a fully digital copy or to hire an engineering firm to do a complete review of the tax map in total to be able to submit to the division of taxation for approval. This would streamline that process.
Like it's ready.
And it would save us the complete cost of the digital.
Right.
All right, any other questions for Alex? Alex, good job, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Alex.
The next item, we have the Tyndall Park upgrades.
Jen?
How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. As you said earlier today, Mayor, that we're really close to going out to bid for the dog park. That is still true. We recently got our PASIs approved by Green Acres. That took probably close to 4 years, but we got the certificate of approval last month, and we were really excited about it. So at this point, Colliers did finish up the design, and what we need to do is put the complete packet together to send to Green Acres for them to approve it. So just at this point, we're doing some loose ends on our end to just kind of get everything tidied up, completed to Green Acres and send them on out. Once they review it and approve it, they'll bring it back to us. We'll be able to go out to bid, which we anticipate happening this spring.
All right. Any questions for Janet? All right, thank you, Janet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next-
Abandoned properties, sorry.
So,
Tony, are you taking this one?
yeah, in your ordinance, I mean, in your agenda packet, I put in a draft of an ordinance. We've had a lot of discussion recently about how to deal with abandoned properties. You know, we're calling them zombie properties sometimes, but you know, we had a meeting about it a couple of weeks ago, and you know, the statutes in New Jersey do allow you to be more proactive dealing with abandoned property, particularly residential properties, although there is some application for non-residential properties too. And so I gave you a draft of an ordinance. It's basically taken from an ordinance that Cherry Hill has that does this. And essentially what it does is allows you to create a registry of abandoned properties. And when a property becomes abandoned, and let's say it gets taken over by, you know, a bank or something like that, they have 30 days in which to register with the municipality. Or if we notify them that we're aware that they've taken over a property, they have 10 days within which to register the property. Their first fee it's a $500 annual fee, and they would and we would have to have them keep paying that for every year that the property remains abandoned. And the whole idea,
It escalates.
it escalates over time.
Hold on, so you said $500?
Yeah,
To a bank on an annual basis?
yeah.
And it escalates.
It goes up to $1,500, then $3,000. Yeah,
But you can't,
Really have consequences.
but you can't impose something beyond the expense of the program under general municipal law. So you can't just, without having a court proceeding as a fine or some sort on a registration fee, you can't just
well, compared to
say
the zero we
$10,000
get now.
or whatever.
pretty
you know.
Yeah.
Agree.
What's that?
It's
not always a
it's
bank.
better than nothing, but
Yeah.
it's certainly not, it's not.
It's not causing them any pain, no.
It's not substantive.
Right, but again, some properties are abandoned and owned by just an absentee owner. It will be substantive for that.
And if you really want to start getting, you know, banks upset, there are municipalities out there that will send a summons to the CFO of the company.
Oh, we've done that.
Yeah.
You got yelled at for it.
Yes.
So there are properties that have plagued neighborhoods. There's a property right around the corner from my house that caught fire some years back, and nothing has happened to this property. There's properties like that. We're a 42 square mile town. We have 23,000 houses in this town. There's going to be properties around that are in bad shape, in dilapidated shape. And the idea behind this ordinance, and as I spoke about at reorg, was we have to begin the process of, you know, because there's a cost to us, because, you know, you have upset neighbors, and then there's people who are like, the grass is 3 feet high, and I have a 5-year-old, and he or she's running across the street and getting lost in there, and you know, everything else that goes along with it, with an abandoned property.
Yeah.
People squatting them, people, vandalize them. There's things that people do. So this process, by starting with this and creating this abandoned properties list, which is a running list, as Tony mentioned, it gives us the ability to continue the process and get a good handle on potentially foreclosing on these properties and doing the things that are required to maintain the quality of life that our residents expect us to provide.
One of the things I addressed in the memo that I gave you, that again, doesn't necessarily get solved by this ordinance, but it highlights the problem. And that is that code enforcement have their hands tied when it comes to dealing with these sorts of properties, whether they're abandoned or not. You know, some of the worst properties we have in town that have been code enforcement issues for years now are occupied.
Yeah.
So the process right now is a summons, it gets scheduled for municipal court, or it doesn't get scheduled for municipal court. It takes forever for it to be heard. And then as soon as it's scheduled for hearing, the attorney of the property owner calls the court, says, I can't make it for the court next month, so can I come back in June? Okay, we'll schedule you for June. Then in June, they don't come back. And literally, some of these cases have been on for years and not been heard. And there's no solution to that. So what happens is the neighbors who are upset that they live next door to an eyesore, is getting worse and worse, think the town is doing nothing about it. They're mad at us because, the problem is still there. And we say, well, we've issued them summonses.
Right.
And I always tell people, who call up and say, I want my neighbor to get a summons. And I always tell them, a summons doesn't clean up the property.
Yeah.
You really want the property cleaned up. But if they're not going to do it, we have to issue summonses ultimately, but it can take years to get them solved. There needs to be something done with the system, the current way these are handled by municipal courts. And it's not just Middletown. It's all over the state. If the courts, if you're a criminal, you don't get in much trouble these days. And so if you just have tall grass or an unkempt property, the court system doesn't want to do anything significant. It used to be that if you didn't show up for your court date for a property maintenance violation, eventually they issue a warrant, bench warrant. They're not even allowed to do that anymore.
Does the proposed ordinance allow the municipality to implement property maintenance and issue a tax lien on the property?
Well, so on abandoned properties, it's a little easier to do that. On an occupied property, it's very hard to legally go onto somebody's property and start cutting trees down or cutting their grass when somebody's living there. I mean, because trespassing is still trespassing, you know what I mean? So we don't really have the absolute right to do that unless it were clearly a public health hazard, and it would have to be pretty extreme. But even with those cases, and Ryan will tell you that
We had one that.
successfully getting that lien redeemed is no guarantee,
Right.
because a lot of these properties have multiple liens on them.
We
You
had
may
one-
be
we had
lien
that.
number 10.
But even that, I mean, it can take, we had one case we had to go through federal court with that one
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, well, he happened to be a lawyer,
He was
so he was able to file
a
things.
formerly, yeah.
Former lawyer.
And also, with COVID, one person can, the system's already backed up. And also one person says that they have COVID, or, that is crucial, the lawyer, the owner, whatever the case may be. You're talking about now it's sent to the back to the end of the pile.
Some of it has to be done by legislation. I've been researching this, and it seems like every few years, a new piece of legislation gets passed.
Almost
that
every
tweaks
three.
it.
Yeah.
And
But never
none of them really solve the problem.
Yeah.
For example, in many cases, and legitimately, if someone's property is in terrible shape, they literally don't have the money to make all the repairs, even if they wanted to, they don't have the ability. So maybe in that case, you could do a lien that was sort of agreed upon. In other words, say like, there's no way I can fix my property. If town, you're willing to do it, and it costs $25,000, I'll agree to have a $25,000, but there's not really a mechanism to do that right now, So some of it needs to be done through legislation, but at least this gets us started on the path of at least dealing with the abandoned ones. It's a huge, huge problem that, we need to address somehow.
It's a start. I just don't think the fines are substantive to
Oh, no, that's just an annual registration. If they don't comply with they then get additional fines for not cleaning things up. That's just an annual registration. It could be in pristine condition. They still have to file annual registration fee.
All right, any other questions on that? Okay,
And we have the amendment to recreation fees.
This one will take longer. This one will take longer than your last one.
This will take longer. Okay, so for these fee ordinance amendments, a lot of them are coming out of COVID for the most part. I am going to start, and there's a couple of different typos I'm just trying to clean up while going through this as well. I'm going to start with the Melody Park Church Bill, which is actually not any relation to COVID. But if you're familiar with the church bills, Croydon, Nut Swamp, the second turf field at Nut Swamp that we also put in, they're all generally the size of a full-size soccer field or full-size football field. However, Normandy Park Complex is drastically larger. So the proposal for this is to break Normandy Park into 4 different zones that are roughly the same size of Croydon's turf fields. For example, Zone A happens to be the smallest. It's a smaller soccer field size. Zone B and Zone C are generally the same size as Croydon's turf field and have 2 turf fields. So we wanted to propose to keep them the same fee as what it would be for each of those fields at $35 per hour for 2 hours. Zone D would be for the youth baseball field, which is primarily, we have a couple leagues that are looking to do just T-ball or coach pitch at that facility. then zone A is a little bit smaller, so we're proposing a little bit less of a fee for that one. Are there any questions on? the
Janet,
zone?
just what page in this,
Looking for the diagram, or looking for the 142. I don't know what page you're talking, I'm sorry.
I don't know,
In the agenda packet?
Hybel's got 40 different documents, so you know, my iPad's not working. Hybel's got 40 different documents here stapled all together, and God only knows what
Here
they,
you go.
thank you. It's my fault. Yeah, here, that.
I think the biggest issue initially is that right now you could permit out the Normandy fields for one fee for that entire essentially complex, which makes no sense. You ought to be permitting by field, which is what Janet's done by creating these zones.
So you can have 4 entities practicing at the same
Yeah.
time, you're making.
3 entities.
Three.
You have these at the same time.
Right.
We have the 3. And what we just really did was hold the size of Brighton, Nut Swamp, and the 2 at Nut Swamp, took their fees and kind of overlaid that on top of Normandy to say, well, what's comparable to what we're paying for that? And that's kind of how we came up with the zones for these, with the exception of baseball.
How do these compare to other municipalities, Janet?
I don't know off the top of my head, I'm sorry. When we did this a few years ago, I know we were right in the ballpark, but that was a number of years ago.
Because what
We're not
concerns me,
increasing them.
what's that?
This isn't increasing the field fees, right?
It's not increasing them at all. There's no.
It's just breaking them up into zones. Yeah, but one thing that I know is happening and that we're gonna have to address in terms of increasing our fees, I think we have a lot of trainers out there that are permitting out and getting the permits for our facilities, and then they're paying us $75 or whatever, $70, but then they're charging $200 for the hour, and they have 5 kids. And, you know, they're making a killing on our facilities, and they could be kids from any town. You know, they could be coming from Tinton Falls or Red Bank or wherever, and they're using our facilities, paying us a one-time fee per you know, a one fee, and then quadrupling the cost to these other kids and they're making a profit off of that.
Right.
And listen, I'm all up for, you know, entrepreneurial spirits and
That's
stuff
the
like
thing,
that.
right now,
But that's crazy.
right now, that trainer could get all of the fields at Normandy for $70.
Oh, listen, I think that breaking up the zones is a great idea. I think.
And we do have a special class for the professional trainers.
Class 3, but again, it's still only $70. And we're getting the
Yeah, and we have to look at that. I understand. I think, what?
Sorry, no, sorry.
Splitting up the zones splitting up the fields is a good idea, but you know, we spent $5 million on redoing the fields at Normandy and Nut Swamp. And, you know, to me, a trainer that brings in kids from other municipalities and pays the $70, you know, and then is charging $200, you know. The 5 million was for our athletes and our residents, and I think that should be first and foremost, you know.
And I do think by breaking up into zones, you know, the demand is there and the want and the need is there. So by keeping them zones there and keeping them the fields permitted, hopefully it will help keep off some of the outside
I agree.
trainers and things.
Okay. Any questions for Janet?
She's got one.
There's more.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Excited.
Some of the other things that are right in here in regards to the permitting, you know, pickleball is obviously really popular. We never had a pickleball fee, so I'm just kind of adding that to the tennis courts fee, keeping it the same fee. I'm not increasing it, but adding the pickleball courts. I will say we're looking to add the language of per court, so it's a fee per hour per court. Same thing with basketball. Basketball leagues kind of blew up in the past couple of years with COVID, and we never had an outdoor basketball court fee, so we've added that in here. We were just simply charging them the indoor court fee, but now we're just kind of spelling it out. So again, it's just kind of cleaning up a little bit and not major changes.
Yeah.
How do you discern between a permitted use and a non-permitted use for the basketball court?
If it's an actual league, a structured league, then it'll be a permitted use, but at pickup games, we don't permit for that.
Growing up playing down in Normandy, every Tuesday and Thursday night, we played. Never, you know,
The
wasn't.
permit just gives you the ability to reserve the court.
Okay.
If you just go out and play, you play.
the second part, this talks about class 3 users, it's the same fees, just like we kind of talked about before, just double them. Moving on to kind of the rest of our program fees. Again, COVID happened and a lot of people are looking for other avenues to have picnics or birthday parties. Right now, our picnic fee only specifies Bodmin Park, but we wanted to expand that to if you live near Waloo or if you want to live near Dorset and you wanted to be able to have a picnic at other facilities, we just kind of broaden that a little bit. The Bodmin Park left in there and left the fees the same there because Bodmin Park does have the nice structure, it does have the picnic tables, and it does have the bathrooms. Other areas don't have that, so it's a lesser fee for that, which is the same fee as if you rented a baseball field or a soccer field. I also added to spell out the Forest Park gazebo. We don't have anything specific for that. Again, that one's in there too. It's a little bit less because the gazebo itself is a smaller structure than what Bodmin is. And depending upon when you do it, there may or may not be bathrooms available for that. If they wanted to have the Forest Park gazebo on a Saturday or something where they did need bathrooms open, then the additional staffing fee, which is already established, would come into play for that. So there's no change as far as that goes. Moving on to the preschool. If you look at the ordinance, you'll see that the ordinance actually we haven't increased the preschool fees since 2019. And what I am proposing for this year is to increase it 10%, which is right in line with St. Mary's and King of Kings. So we are increasing the cost. So I'll just take, for example, we primarily have a 4-day program. We're not doing anything 5 days. So right now, the 4 half days is $3,920. We do it over 10 months. So it's $392 per month. Looking to increase that to $4,312 or $431 per month. So a 10% increase for that.
And I mean, I know for myself, obviously, I pay more than that, but is the average, I know you looked at St. Mary's and King of Kings, that's good. And I mean, from what other people tell me, obviously we are still well below what the private preschool would charge.
Yeah, Goddard right now is $1,200 to $1,500 per month.
$1,200 to $1,500 per month?
Yeah, it's a rate.
And with this increase of 10%, we'd be at
431.
431.
But you have to understand too, Goddard, I can't see that without calling and saying that I have a child that wants to live in there. So I can only get off what was on the website.
Do you have a child interested in going there?
My children over there. But so I don't know what that actually is saying. And Goddard a lot of times I think is the full package where they have the 6 a.m. drop off to the 6
Sure.
p.m. Or not that, or the half day.
You're still a quarter of the cost though. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're still 25% of the
And we
cost.
are less than both St. Mary's and King of Kings. A lot less, but less.
Okay. Any questions for Janet?
She's not going to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, it's still here.
Go ahead, Janet.
I want to make sure we cover everything.
2 more things, okay?
She leaves this long pause in there like Clark did during his speech at reorg, so I just assume it's time to.
Wanted to give you a chance.
Go ahead. I digested.
Profound presenters know how to do the pause.
Program. So again, we haven't raised fees since 2019. And for this one, I did want to do something a little bit different than what we've done in the past, and I included a range. I guess I should mention, although I'm not sure that it's necessary, but minimum wages got up. So we're competing drastically for counselors to work the summer camp as well as the cost of supplies. So unfortunately, that's really kind of driving where this increase is coming from. So I'm going to use the example of our 5 days per week, which is 5.5 hours per day, which is our 8:30 to 2 at camp. This right now is at $85 per week. And I'm proposing a 15% increase for this current year. So that would be the $96. I'm also proposing another 15% increase for the following year. So that would be $110. And then a third increase of 15% of $126. Now it is a range, so I'm not sure if that is favorable or not.
Just explain to me the wages that the employees are currently making now and then what they're going to be making after.
Sure, if you are starting with us and you are in high school, you would make $8.50 an hour. So now you'll be making $13 an hour. And you have to be 16 to work for us. If you were coming out of college, if you're coming in from college, you have to be $10. Now you start at 13.
It's more than what you make. Just enough for that.
But I think the idea, and I think what I talked to Janet about earlier was what we'll try to do is have a 2022 fee, 2023 fee, and 2024 fee. So that way we don't have to redo the ordinance over the next 3 years.
Yeah, it's scheduled.
And I have that number, so my original proposal didn't, I just had the range, but I could spell it out to what it would be per year.
We'll have to do that in the ordinance. anyway.
Yeah, we'll have to demonstrate it.
Right, last part.
I was gonna say, what's next, Jen?
Again, COVID, surprisingly, people want to get married and they don't want to have a big venue.
That is surprising.
But we don't really have anything for we do have a permit, a schedule, a fee ordinance for special events. However, it's a little bit pricey if someone just wants to come to the park. And that's what we were kind of finding during COVID is it's just a small, very simple, small ceremony. No cupola, no chairs, nothing really. So what I'm proposing for that is a simple wedding ceremony held at a township park without any additional equipment. So you're not bringing tables, chairs, you're not bringing a DJ, you're not bringing kind of food. It's really just a quiet little venue first. Let's get married, and then they're going to go somewhere else. For that, proposing $100 for 2 hours for residents, and then $200 for non-residents.
Okay.
Does that include you to?
I do it for free. I'll marry anybody. Come on down. I've had to have done at least 100 by now.
So we should have this ordinance ready for introduction at the next
22nd.
22nd meeting. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Janet, what's next? Nothing? Okay. All right, thank you, Janet.
Now we have the 2022 road improvement program.
Okay, Ted, come on down.
Quick, no long pauses.
Yeah, I'm not believing I'm not gonna bring it to trouble.
When I say, all right, thanks, Ted, just.
Boyfriend not.
Yeah.
I last appeared before you back in December when I announced that our consultant had finished the design for the capital road program, road and drainage work. And we went to bid for that project in January. It's been a couple of years since we had a multi-location capital bid. So it was quite large. We had an estimated, engineer's estimate of $2.65 million for this project. But we kept it out to bid intentionally for about a month to make sure we had a lot of bidders apply. Sure enough, we had a bid opening last Tuesday.
It was a big crowd.
Big crowd. We had 9 or 10 bidders, which was great. At times where we had 1 or 2. The bids came in under the estimate at $2.26 million. So at the next meeting, we'll be asking you to approve that contract with Jazz Construction.
That almost never happens.
Colleen is like dumbfounded in the front row.
I can't remember last time.
She like doesn't understand what that means.
Hopefully they didn't miss anything.
But this will cover multiple roadways. You've seen your memo, 12 different locations plus.
There's quite a bit here and ones that I'm glad to see, obviously, that we've talked about, Ted, at nauseum. There's a good amount of roadways on there. Glad to hear that it came under budget. Now if it gets done ahead of schedule, I'm out. Yeah.
So again, you'll see that on the next agenda. Hopefully the resolution to approve that contract.
All right.
You just got the engineer's letters today. So.
Yeah. All right. Ted's walking away, so I assume he's done. Thank you, Ted.
Township committee comments?
Township committee comments. Clark, no long pauses. I'm going to you first.
I'm going to reserve comment for a meeting.
All right. Nothing from Committeeman Senabrino, Committeewoman Kratz? Okay. Deputy Mayor, nothing. Just a shout out, 2 teams. Way to go, High School North, victory in the Mayor's Cup the other day. Way to go, High School South girls swim team, short conference champions. Awesome job. I think I'll be seeing the South girls here at the end of the month. So with that being said, any member of the public wishing to make a public comment, I'm going to start off with anybody. I see you, Don, but I'm going to start off with anybody here at Town Hall first. Any member of the public? Yes, ma'am. Come on down. just state your name and address for the record. Any member of the public, if we just start over, I'm gonna start over. It's been a long day. He's got all these sugar packets here. Just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Melanie Elmaker. I live at 43 Green Tree Terrace in Lincroft. I just had one question. I think it's time to resurrect the two-way Acme Road discussion. The money was allocated in July of 2018. I think we last talked about it like mid
19, I think. Yeah.
And so I think we just have to go back to the drawing board because from the township standpoint, nothing can happen anywhere in the 520 corridor in Lincroft from the county standpoint until that road is addressed. So I don't know, where it last stood. He was the last person to handle it.
Well,
to the property owner. I just
Yeah.
think, maybe we can resurrect the 520 task force, and that could be one element of their work to start with, but the county won't, I can't go to the county and say, come on, let's go, let's get these changes, because they'll point to every single study they've done since 2002, 20 years ago, that says we're not going to do anything until the Acme Road is addressed. Those driveways, the dangerous turns, and nothing can be done until that's addressed.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, since we spoke on Saturday or Sunday, whenever we spoke, I brought it up to Mercantante twice. But like I said, the two-way road coming out of Acme, obviously is private property. We have, Ted, I know, has engaged, Tony has engaged the property owner.
You made her an offer.
Yeah, I mean,
Responded at this point.
we have made her an offer. I think we've made her two separate offers, both with different takes on how to address this. I think it's absolutely, when I lived in River Plaza, and I was going to Acme, that was, I would think about it constantly, right? And when I first met Abe, right, he was the champion he was like holding up a two-way sign on that exit way. But unfortunately, you have to have a willing partner, right, in order to be able to purchase this. If this was public property, if this was a roadway that we owned, this would have been done by now, because everybody in this room agrees that it's the right thing to do. Especially now that I think next month the Lincroft Tavern is set to open. So which is, I'm sure, a big part of why this and I agree with you, why it needs to be resurrected. I believe the owner lives in Florida. If I remember, I think she lives in Florida now.
No, she's local. She's
Part-time.
part-time.
Yeah, she's part-time. Yeah, it's like almost every other New Jersey resident.
Everybody on that is St. River.
Yeah, exactly.
Florida resident.
Yeah, Florida residents, but they have a house.
We've tried very, very, very hard with this one. Very hard.
So it's one of those that there's not a person on this dais or in this room, professional wise, that would disagree that this needs to become township property. It's just a matter of this owner engaging us. And as I said, a couple of days ago when we spoke, we would re-engage her to try and do this, because I think the idea, and still to this day, I would rather go all the way down West Front and come down through the back roads to Hurley and into the shopping center than turn onto Newman Springs and try and make a left into from Middletown Lincroft Road into that shopping center, because it's scary.
Very scary.
There's no doubt that needs to be fixed, and that two-way road is undoubtedly the initial kick to fixing those traffic issues. So we will re-engage with the property owner, and I think at that time, if we see that we're making some cracks into her wall of not selling it to us, then reestablishing that task force would be the appropriate time to do that. So and I'm working on the other list of items that you gave me. I already spoke to JCP&L. They're going out. They're going to take a look at those lights. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Melanie. You have a Lincroft Village Green meeting tonight?
It's Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday. Got it. Okay. Okay, any other member of the public wishing to make a public comment? John, come on down.
Making this might be something better to talk about after the meeting. So are you familiar with the highway island across from Target, like near Golden? I had an idea of like, I thought it might make the town look pretty nice if I could donate some like cherry blossom trees in that little highway island, just so people coming in could, just see a nice entrance in Middletown. I don't really know I wanted to ask like what the process is, like if you have to contact NJG or T first or.
Yeah, actually before I was on the township committee, and I was working for Senator Carlos, we got a DOT grant for Hazlitt actually to beautify some of their jug handles, the islands in between the jug handle and the highway. There's actually very smartly, I have to say, there's a lot of line of sight items, so they're very specific on what types of trees and shrubbery you can put on these islands. But it's actually something that Ted and Jesse are working on in terms of trying to beautify some of these and have a standard look, basically, given those line of sight items. So I'd love for you to, maybe I connect you and Jesse and Ted and see if have a discussion about, that's a good one. That's definitely, because that is, you're pulling in and it's right there, you're seeing it. I was really upset when they used to have all those signs sitting there and we made them get rid of all those like lawn signs that they had sitting there forever. And eventually they did. But the beautifying of those jug handles is a great idea, and it needs to be done. And finding the right foliage is the key to that.
I think generally speaking, they probably won't allow trees just because cars can hit them eventually too. But, low level landscaping, 3 feet and under, I'm sure they would be okay with that sort of thing. You could do a lot with that.
We'll coordinate
I
up.
don't think they would grant trees though.
Yeah. We'll coordinate up, all right, John?
All right, thanks.
You got it. Thank you, my friend. And thanks for your service on the open space. Appreciate it. I know we have a meeting coming up, I think, right? Yeah, we do. Yeah. All right. Any other member of the public here at Town Hall wishing to make a public statement? No? You look like you wanted to ask a question. All right. You sure? Okay.
I'm scared of telling you about the sugar.
All right, Don, what's happening, my friend?
How you doing, Don Watson, living at 1 Collinson Drive in New Monmouth? That gentleman that came from the county talked about the tax maps. Reminded me that the maps we have on our township website, you cannot search them.
Yeah.
There's a field to plug. Hey.
Yeah, we're gonna be engaging a whole new system for the public side of our GIS maps. So the next, month or two, you'll see a different system in there.
Yeah, we pay Mazer all this money every year to update the maps, but they don't get them to work.
Well, we're not for longer.
That's good.
Whole new system.
Yeah, it's actually, so when we went and started so Alex works for us, just Alex is a township employee, but one of the things that Alex really geeked out on was, I don't blame him. I think it's cool too. I didn't say I wasn't a geek too. Was the searchability of these tax maps, but also the ability for the town to decide, right? One thing, Heidi sits here and she helps run these meetings, but one thing that her office is obviously responsible for is sending out all these Oprah requests that we get. And one that I think is that the legislature should really look towards fixing is the amount of time and energy that our town employees spend looking at permits and closed permits, because real estate agents are constantly, I mean, we all get the list. I mean, you look at our Oprah list, 95 to 97% of them are real estate agents asking about any open or closed permits on this address. And you look at the bottom and it says exactly what our cost is for township time. It's hundreds of dollars per week. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but now multiply that across 52.
Entry.
Per entry. But multiply that amongst every single Oprah request. And I think the legislature really needs to fix this because township employees have basically become employees for real estate.
It's not like we get a piece of the commission.
And that's what I'm saying. It's criminal that happens and that our employees have to go through that because now that's one less thing that Heidi's able to do, her staff's able to do. Building department is just constantly being bombarded with it. And so getting back to what GovPilot is able to do, it gives us the ability to provide open and closed if we so choose to do this. Any municipality can decide, but you can hover over the map and see, okay, this had electrical permits or plumbing, construction, any of these things, so that you're not wasting the time of the town employees to do that. So that's really something that we are taking a look at. And when we've had all these different meetings with GovPilot, it was something that really stuck out was that there's a lot of time and energy spent working for Century 21 and all these other Redfin that I see constantly about what they're doing. So it's a good comment and a good point, Don.
So that's going to be tied in with the county map?
There are two different things, really.
Yeah.
What Alex was talking about earlier is a more efficient way of getting our tax maps updated every time there's a change. That's one system. The GovPilot system that the mayor was just talking about is what's going to replace the Mazer GIS system that we have now called ViewWorks. And that's what that's what you try to see when you go on the public side of the website. That'll be replaced by a new system called GovPilot, which will be far more searchable and user-friendly than what we've had in the past.
Yeah, I mean, look how close people can get in Google Earth. I mean, it's scary how close you can get to the front door of somebody's house and take that and basically apply it to a tax map ultimately, blocking lots and everything. So
I was thinking you should tie it all together and have one map. So you don't have to maintain two different maps.
Google would loan us a couple of those vehicles.
That's also legal, like we have to have a tax map by statutory standards that meet certain specifications that's different from, what people would like to see. So
Right.
It's a different.
For the most part, the system, the GovPilot system, you will be able to use it like a tax map and it'll do all the same things. It's just that for tax map purposes, specifically for the county's purposes, and for tax assessment purposes, it has to be a slightly different system that updates in a different way. But essentially what you're going to be looking at when we get the GovPilot maps up will essentially be the tax map, although they're technically not. But it'll give you all the same information.
Okay.
They're two different systems. They have to be different.
So the law.
Yeah, if you say so.
Yeah.
Okay, also-
That's right. The law hasn't caught up
Laws
with technology.
catch up with technology. I mean, they're ancient.
They'll never catch up.
Hmm.
Your discussion about abandoned properties, you're talking about homeowners that don't have the money to maintain their properties.
Yeah.
I was wondering have you ever approached them about a community development grant, a block grant?
Yes, we do. In fact, that happens every now and then, but that usually has to do with a property that has something wrong with the structure itself, maybe outdated wiring, a bad roof, those sorts of things community development can address. And a lot of times they do take advantage of that. But when you talk about property maintenance, like abandoned cars, overgrown vegetation, trash, community development can't help with that. And that's where it gets difficult to get the owners to always do the work that's needed.
Well, you maybe incorporate it into doing a assessment on the buildings or structures. And
Well, that's what
throw
we're
that
talking
in.
If there was a way to do that where we clean up the property and apply a lien on the property, let's say it cost us $10,000 to do it, and apply that so we would get reimbursed at the time the property is sold. Yes, that's what we're looking to do. There's not really a system to do that very easily right now. Under the law.
And you have to front the money.
And we have to put up all the money.
Yeah.
So it could be years by the time we get paid back. So we also have to budget.
That's what these people like me with the homeowners are for, right?
Well, you
We
know.
front the money.
Yeah, you literally will be fronting the money. You and the rest of the taxpayers
Yes,
fronting the money. But on the other hand, there's an overall benefit to the community if you can get properties better maintained and improve the quality of life in neighborhoods.
Yeah, the value goes up.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a limit too. I mean, there's only so much you can do.
Right.
Because there could be hundreds of them. That's a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to sign up for lawn care. Another point I brought up, I think was back in November or something, was the section of Main Street over in Port Monmouth that's not paved yet. You guys were trying to chase down the gas company or something. You're supposed to have a meeting with them in December. How did you make out with that? Repeat that, please.
Ted's coming up to the mic.
You're talking about the, on the dry side?
Yeah, over by Crystal Pond.
Right over there, you're right, they're still going through with their program now. I'm supposed to meet again with the engineer from New Jersey Natural Gas about some other projects coming up. The water company started some other projects in town this week, so there'll be a lot of.
You were supposed to meet with them in December though, Ted.
Yeah, we didn't get together with that. He got sick and so, but they have the plan to do a lot of restoration once the weather breaks, and that'll be one of those spots they're doing. What I really want to talk to them about is the upcoming projects they're having in town.
And when is this upcoming? So I don't have to ask every month.
For the meeting?
Or should I ask every month?
I haven't said.
Yeah.
I just talked to him.
Okay. Maybe next year, right?
No, right, we'll get him. We'll talk to him.
Yeah. Okay. One more thing is, go ahead, Ted.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, you're kind of breaking up, so I can't really hear you that well. But anyway, one more thing I wanted to ask about was a resolution with the NTE.
Go ahead, Don.
Hold on a second. Yeah, not to exceed amount. Why don't we hold true to that? Not to exceed when we're going to exceed it.
Those are estimates.
Anyway. Well, why do you put an NTE clause into the resolution if they're just estimates?
Do you understand? We have to have a certification of funds from the CFO, so we have to put an estimated amount not to exceed, which can vary depending upon any number of factors, depending upon what it's for. If there's, so there's numerous instances where those change throughout the years.
Yeah, like change orders.
Yeah, we don't exceed very often.
Not much.
We do once in a while, but I'd say the majority of the time we do not. We stay within the estimated amount.
You think you consider the number of contracts we have and the probably only a half dozen at most of these resolutions a year with hundreds of contracts. So it's not too bad, frankly.
You can't predict if you're going to get a lawsuit that you didn't expect or two lawsuits you didn't expect. That's going to happen. There's no way to predict that.
Or a project with escalators, right? Last summer, we had a material increase of 35%.
Yeah.
We can't predict that.
Yeah.
But do you put a not to exceed clause in that resolution? I'm just saying that if you're going to exceed something, maybe you shouldn't even use that phrase.
Well,
we have no choice. I think that's what's required. We have to.
It seems like
estimate an amount.
Yeah, it seems like you're contradicting yourself here. when you read the resolution, you're saying you're not going to exceed this, but then you wind up exceeding it anyway. You know, so it,
I'd say that happens.
I know you don't do it always, but read the resolution. It says you're not going to exceed it, but then you're saying this resolution is going to exceed it.
Mhm.
So it kind of contradicts itself. That's all I'm trying to say.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Don.
Thank you very much. You bet. Have a good night.
All right, you too. Okay, any other member of the public wishing to make a public comment? Okay, nobody else here? Seeing no members of the public stepping forward, move to close the public portion and adjourn.
Committeeman Clark.
Yes.
Committeewoman Kratz.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hybel.
Yes.
Mayor Perry.
Yes,
Motion carries to adjourn.
have a good night, everybody. Thank you all very much.